Welcome back to Junction 119. This is Kellan.
This is Casen.
And Casen, nice hat. It's a little on the
Thank you.
nose.
Thank you.
We're back after kind of a week off, but really not a week off. We're just kind of adjusted from last week into earlier this week because one of us was on the road. Casen, you want to talk about that at all or not?
Yeah, I had a work thing down in uh, Tejas. Uh and so I was down there for about a week. And yeah, it was a good time.
I texted you something that you have proven wrong, I will say. I said you look ridiculous with a cowboy hat on. I sit corrected. It looks pretty good, I must say.
Yeah, so what I will say, I don't know if you can tell, there's little stars.
Hmm.
What I will say is the work conference that I was at provided me this hat. So
Oh,
I
cool. Well,
we
then, yeah,
it was a free hat for
gotcha.
one. So
Well, I was in Columbus this past weekend, hence the Columbus Clippers hat I got going
mhm.
on. But we had a couple of championships finish while we were away, I will say.
Yeah, we did sort of plan on doing it yesterday and Sunday, and then there was the force of Game 7, and decided, well, might as well wait until
Might as
Game
well
Seven's
wait.
over.
It's you'll hear this Tuesday. We're recording it on a Monday afternoon. It's good to see you. It's good to be back. We are going to get mainly it's just a sports show today. We're going to catch up on some sports stories. We're actually going to primarily talk about basketball, but we begin with the back-to-back championship winners. The Florida Panthers have not only now gone to their third straight uh, final, they have won their second in a row. Casen. It would look like it was trending that way around our last show. I will say that a series which gave us, I want to say, what, two real good overtime thrillers and then essentially just blowouts of the Panthers over the Oilers.
I pretty much, yeah,
Kind of a
pretty
dud
much.
of a series. I'm not going to lie.
I mean, it was yeah, it was some just horrific blowouts mixed in with some of the best hockey games I've ever seen, and it was just like average out to an okay series, but it was just like I don't know.
I don't know.
It's just so bizarre. I mean, I've said a lot of things about the Oilers on this show,
You
and
have.
I I think it all just kind of sums up with they're gutless, they are uh unmotivated, they are weak, they are just they've got to be tough to root for because you have the soft as soft can be Connor McDavid, who if he can't make a pass then he's useless. And then so it's like, I mean, you have McDavid and Draisaitl, and that's like it. I mean, you have really inconsistent goaltending. You have
Yeah.
really inconsistent defense. It's just so bizarre over that team, and I don't know. So that's back to back wins over the Oilers for the Panthers.
It's the
I mean,
third
yeah.
It's the third time now in the salary cap era that a team has won back-to-back Stanley Cups, which it is really, really impressive if you really think about it, especially considering that it is by definition supposed to not be possible, right? We've now seen it three times, and a second time a team from Florida has done
Well, well, yeah, but what I would also sort of denote that is that almost makes your back to back mean more
it. Mm.
because if we want to go back, we've talked about this before
By your, do you
recently.
mean the Pittsburgh Penguins?
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right. Yeah.
And so if you want to go back to since COVID,
Yeah.
we every single Stanley Cup champion has been from a state that does not have state income tax.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
There's been a lot of conversation about this,
there has.
and it doesn't really end up mattering that much in other leagues, because the salaries are so blown out of proportion in other leagues, like
Yeah,
with the NBA and the NFL and MLB. But with the NHL, which the salaries are still relatively low, that makes a difference. I
it
mean,
does.
that makes a difference. And so when you're talking about about quality depth guys who are, you know, third or fourth line offense or third line defense, or sorry, forwards and defensemen, then they're making, I don't know, like 900,000, maybe a million. I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean when you consider after the tax, I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
yeah,
and so when you're talking about saving state income tax on, that small amount of income,
yeah,
it makes a difference. And so
it does. And when
there
you
needs to be a conversation to be said about how you compensate for or how you account for that in the salary cap.
I agree. And, we're now looking at a situation. Well, and also the weather doesn't hurt. I mean, the Florida teams I have a lot of
Florida,
Florida
Nevada,
weather
yeah,
on top
yeah.
of that. I mean, it's always going to be a really popular free agent destination, as the Lightning also are. I agree with you. I do think that if this happens again and we get another Florida team, them going another. I mean, I'm on record saying three-peats don't happen, and I stick to that. This team will likely not three-peat, but my goodness, you talk about a franchise that is almost built to. You know what I mean? Because I don't see any reason why these guys won't be like right here again next year. But three-peats again are hard. I will say thank you for the complimenting of the Pittsburgh Penguins back to back because seeing it was impressive at the time. But you're right. I mean I give that to the greatness of that team and how deep that team was, but also that depth being used by Mike Sullivan. But I agree. We didn't benefit from the idea that we could just pay a bunch of people and be like a cool destination. For a while there was a little bit Casen of a the Penguins were a popular free agent destination mainly because like everyone wanted to play with Sid and Gino. There was a little bit of that kind of going
Hmm.
on, and Capitals had a little bit of that with Ovi, but it was definitely more along the lines of you have a chance to win and you can play with those guys. I think that benefited the Penguins a little bit. Shout out Nick Bonino, who as of this past week is now a an assistant coach for the Penguins, which is pretty funny to see. So assistant coaching the guys who he won at least one Stanley Cup with it because I don't believe Benino was on the 17 team. But when the Penguins won it in 2017, it felt more like in 16 it really felt like we were the best team in the NHL. In 17 it really just felt like we were, but we were like the last team standing. It didn't really feel like that for the Panthers. I mean, these guys really like took it to the Oilers when they won those games. And
Yeah.
and honestly, I kind of look at the breakdown because we had overtime thriller game one, Oilers win. Overtime thriller game two, two overtimes. Panthers won that one. Arguably, the series was determined on that game because
And it
once
felt
that
like it.
happened,
It felt like
it
it.
felt like it. Like once that happened, you had the Panthers take all that momentum, and then they just blow them out in game three. Oilers, rage and serenity to try and win, but ultimately they do win game four, and then Panthers blowout. Like it was just like the mental fortitude was just gone from Edmonton, and I honestly don't know where they go from here. I mean, they're. I agree with you. They're a tough team to root for. I feel for Canada, to be completely honest, just because it really felt like this team, Connor McDavid was finally going to get over the hump. There have been talks about him potentially going elsewhere. I don't think that's going to happen right away, but if they keep getting this far, I had some people send to me, let the rebuild continue, and it's just McDavid next to Crosby. I'm like, okay, all right, like let's calm down a little. I mean, that would be awesome. Don't get me wrong, but let's calm down a little bit. Um, but I commend the Florida Panthers regardless of those advantages that they have because it's the hardest championship in my opinion to win in sports, and they won it twice in a row. Got to give them stick taps.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, absolutely. I guess. I mean, however, I
Your
do.
Knights are the only ones who can beat them in the final, apparently.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. I will say it's been a little strange to just see like how classless the Panthers have been in winning.
Mm.
Like, I mean, I can't say I'm surprised to see, you know, that rat Brad Marchand,
Brad Marchand.
behave like that. But it's I felt the same way when we beat them 2 years ago, in that it's just that they lost without class. They can't, like, so it's just like they're just a very classless organization, and it's just been that way the whole way, the whole time, and
They're
it's
certainly
very
cocky.
odd.
I want to give a serious shout out to a guy who I gotta say I'm sure they miss him in Columbus, but man, Sergei Bobrovsky, what a second act for your life and career to ultimately I believe he was dealt to Florida, and he's now had like this whole second like wave of his career. I honestly don't remember how he got there, but
I think he let because he signed that big deal, so I think he
yeah, I think
left.
he chose
They,
to go
which
elsewhere.
I made fun of it at the time, of like they overpaid him. At least we thought, because,
Yeah.
like, he was like looking to be at the twilight of his career when he left Columbus, and then he's like only played better since then.
Yeah,
So
he's now
yeah.
36 years old and has been in the final now 3 times, and he still looks like he could go another 3 or 4 years. That's what's crazy about it.
So yeah, it warm weather, I guess it cures all.
Yeah, I guess it does. I guess so. So, I'm with you. It is annoying to see that a team like them win. I was pulling for the Oilers. I know why you were not. They're a divisional rival. We'll see where things go from here. I'm on record saying that I think the New York Rangers are going to win the Stanley Cup in the next 2 years. I think the East is gonna. There's going to be teams in the East to threaten them here going forward. But
Mhm.
that's all I have on the Stanley Cup final. If you want to shift, if you're ready, to the final that ended just on Sunday evening.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
This is more your forte, as I always say.
I mean, so we're talking here Monday evening. If you're listening or watching this on Tuesday, last night was the NBA Finals Game 7 with the Oklahoma City Thunder and Indiana Pacers. And we were robbed of what could have been. Um, for those of you who didn't see it, or weren't watching it, the star of the Indiana Pacers, uh, Tyrese
What
Halliburton,
in the
went.
Tyrese Halliburton happened, Casen?
Yeah, he was on one. He was in his bag, and then what was it, like 7 minutes into the first quarter,
Yeah,
went down with an Achilles.
it was
And
known that
that,
he was playing with calf tightness.
yeah, he was playing
It's Game
through,
7 of the NBA Finals. He wasn't not gonna play. I mean, I
yeah.
don't fault the guy for not playing in what is going to be the last game of the year. We
Mhm.
should also talk about how the Pacers completely blew away the Thunder in Game 6 in what was, no matter what way you slice it, that was going to be the Pacers' final home game of the year. And it
Mhm.
was really cool to see them do that one more time on their home floor. But I'm with you. I was going into Game 7 thinking this is going to be a classic. This is going to be awesome. And my thoughts are, regardless, anything that has been or hasn't been said about this series by us or otherwise, put that all to bed. It's Game 7. Let's do it. And then when Tyrese went down, I mean, genuinely, it's like the air went out of the whole event. It was like, oh, okay. If you're an OKC fan, you probably were like relieved. I'm just being real. You never want to see a guy get injured, especially now that Tyrese is definitely going to be out all of next year. So you don't get him and you don't get Tatum all of next season, which is horrendous if you're a fan of those two teams. However, I will say, it just felt like the game was over, and it was. It was effectively
Mhm.
over because you just think to yourself, it would be heroic if the Pacers can find a
Yeah.
way to rally
However,
and do it.
I will
And
say
for a
they
while there,
tried.
I thought they might have. Yeah,
They
for a
certainly
while
tried.
there, I thought
I
that
mean,
it could do
the
that, and it was going to be
credit
story of the
credit
year.
to the credit to the bench, the rest of the roster, for not giving up and making it interesting all the way down to the end, because they went on like an 11-1 run at one point,
Yeah,
late in the fourth, and made it real interesting, to where, like, it wasn't over until like a minute left. And
Pittsburgh legend T.J. McConnell, man.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, Pittsburgh and now Indianapolis legend. I really feel for it. I honestly was pulling for the Pacers, but no matter what way you slice it, one franchise was getting their first ever title. I will say, and maybe you can speak a little bit on this. It just feels like the internet has been really bashing Gilgis Alexander, like SGA today, and like I'm kind of at a loss as to why. Like saying it just feels like this Thunder team like didn't deserve this title, and I'm like, that's a little weird take to say.
I
They're kind of a cast of misfits. They also have Alex
yeah,
Caruso. I'm happy to see longtime Bull. I'm happy to see him
I
but like it
Alex
just felt like TikTok
Caruso,
was really hating on this
yeah,
team, and I'm
yeah,
like,
I
go
Alex
ahead.
Caruso is a two-time NBA champion, which is
Mhm.
hilarious.
Yep.
Um, he won the bubble ring with the
Oh, I
Lakers.
forgot about that. He was on that
Um,
team, and then the
it,
Bulls, and now
yeah.
Thunder.
So yeah, I don't totally know if they're just trying to say if they're leading to because this roster is soft or something, but I've seen people say that SGA is like the weakest MVP in a long time. I think
Like
I
in
saw
NBA history, I'm
yeah,
like, that's a little bit
I think I
insane.
saw Coward rank like the he like ranked the last 10 champions and like this Thunder team was like 8.
Mm.
Um so yeah, I'm not totally sure. Uh
Well, my thinking is, if the Pacers had won that game, would they be saying the same thing about them?
I think the debate would have been like it was a fluke. They just got hot in May and June and then they were just went on a like I think the argument would have been like they weren't the best team, but they just had the best playoffs.
I mean, I
Um
will subscribe to the when fully healthy, the best team in the NBA this year was
I
probably the Cleveland Cavaliers.
I think yeah, I mean they were the best team record wise, and I do think that it, without some weird, bizarre injury stuff in the middle of that Pacers series, and
Correct.
if they had run into anybody except the Pacers, I think they would have been up against the Thunder, and that would have been anybody's series. But I it just feels to me like there's a lot of old heads that don't love the way the Thunder play, that like their play style is not everybody's cup of tea.
Sure.
Um, I do think that there's an argument to be said that they are essentially a roster full of James Hardens to where they just
Hmm.
get fouls and they try and make fouls and it's just not great basketball to watch. So I
Hmm.
think that might be, part of it in the fact that it seems like some people are suggesting that the league sort of engineered them getting here and winning this um to an extent.
I'll tell you who did actually. I'll tell you who definitely engineered them. Future Hall of Famer Sam Presti. Once again,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
cannot sing his
Yeah.
praises enough. I'm like, yeah, one of the best GMs like in sports history.
Could 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 you imagine so let me time travel with you here for a second.
Sure.
Imagine being the owner of the Seattle Supersonics, knowing you're about to move to Oklahoma City.
Yep.
You need a new general manager, and obviously the best prospect in the upcoming draft is Kevin Durant. You need somebody who's going to get that slam dunk of a pick and then, build around him.
Yep.
And you have the audacity to select as your next general manager a 30-year-old assistant general manager from the San Antonio Spurs whose experience was learning, from that whole system for I think it was I don't know 5 or 6 years as assistant general manager. Um, I mean having the audacity to make that bold decision, and then he's still there, and he's been building and building and rebuilding,
Yep.
and then he finally gets you there. Um, After not really ever being that bad except for like 2 years when it was just kind of a
No, I
tank to
mean the
get
Thunder
at.
have
And
been pretty decent even
I
between their
mean,
whole
yeah,
KG
I mean,
three era.
outside of like that 2 years, I think they've been competitive and right in the mix.
Just for
And
some context, he's now a four-time NBA champion because he was an assistant GM,
yeah,
like you said, for '03, '05, and '07 Spurs titles. So the Spurs dynasty, and now he's he had a run obviously with his initial team in the Thunder, and now it's taken all this time, but he finally had it done. You were saying? Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, not only that, like I mean, he got them to multiple Western Conference Finals
Yeah,
and the NBA Finals by the time he was what 35?
yeah. He's
Because
48 now.
yeah, so because that would have been 2011, I think, the 2011 Finals.
Yep.
Um, and so yeah, I think that there is something to be said. Like the Thunder are going to be here for a while because everybody on that roster is under contract for next year.
So you're
And
telling me, hmm
in addition to that, they still have first round picks from the Paul George trade that they
yeah, they
are
do.
owed. And all these young guys are on cheap contracts for a while. And so they're not going anywhere. So I'm sure they should be the favorite next year out of the West.
They seem to definitely be. Well, they'll certainly be the favorite out of the West. I don't think that's even a question. Um, They certainly seem the most poised and built right now, structure wise and team contract wise, to actually create maybe a mini dynasty and actually somewhat sort of try anyway to put an end to this seven team and seven, in 7 years, seven
Yeah.
different teams era run that the NBA seems to be on. Um, I did want to shift slightly, not to hijack our title because we'll bring it back to basketball. We got a couple more basketball stories, but so the finals are done. They're done, dusted. We've obviously had a whole bunch of things talked about it. Ultimately, what was your takeaway? Because I ultimately come away thinking that this was a great finals that came to a very dud of an ending because of the injury. But I do
Yeah.
think this was a good finals.
I think it was a great finals because I mean, obviously, I have opinions about the Cavs situation of it all,
Sure.
but I also do think that we had some very very fun playoffs playoff series the whole duration
We
because
had career defining moments, performances.
The Pacers Knicks series was fun.
Yes.
And I really I mean honestly to me I think it was like well outside of like the Nuggets Thunder like the East kind of took all the headlines because it was like oh Tatum goes down Knicks beat the Celtics oh I Cavs get beat by the Pacers
Pacers.
all the headlines were in the East
Oh my goodness, the Knicks
heading up
might
to the
legit be
finals.
good again. Like, well, the Knicks
And
are good,
so
but yeah,
I think that this was an interesting and intriguing year to where the East kind of dominated the conversation
yeah.
because like the Thunder were sort of the default answer to who was going to make it, and then there wasn't really any surprises along the way. And so
How do you feel about the people like whether it be friend of the show Matt, but he's not the only one who just found zero excitement in this. It wasn't necessarily a. We've talked about it a little bit on the flow on the show, but you know, I made a big deal to you guys via Snapchat that I actually think a lot of sports fans are pretty regional. I think like don't get me wrong, I made the comparison to Pittsburgh with the Penguins and watching hockey as a greater. I would argue that every city to some degree checks out once their team is no longer in it, right? I think that that would be my argument of if you're going to boast and stand on, oh well, in this town we care about the sport beyond just our team. It's like, yeah, 90% of sports cities are that way as well. That's what I kind of wanted to bring that up on the show.
yeah, no, I mean I definitely can agree with that. How I think it's I've said it, a couple weeks ago. I think there was a part of the problem was, some sort of difficulty with the league sort of getting the aura around the finals. Um
They
and
added the
the
court
lack of
stickers.
they yeah, they did. They and I think partially because, the main stars in this were younger that
Yeah.
they haven't really had a chance for everybody to like I can guarantee you that like if you walk around out in public and ask 10 people if they know who Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is, they're gonna say no.
Yeah.
Like or
Or you say
like I
SGA,
would say probably at least 5 out of 10 are gonna say no, I
the
don't know who
main
that
dude
is.
on the Thunder.
Um,
It was-
let alone if you ask them who Chet Holmgren is.
oh, no way.
Uh,
I mean,
and, and so I,
I would say
I,
the country problem more the country knows who Tyrese Halliburton is now.
yeah, I mean, here's the thing.
He was
I
kind of the
know
most famous in that series.
that's the crazy thing because he's had headlines because the only reason I know about him is because of his girlfriend on draft night when
Yeah.
he got drafted.
Yeah.
Like that's how I know who he
That's how
is.
we that's how yeah, that's a
Like,
good point.
and so
Um,
like to me it's a huge problem with the league, and I've seen this said recently too by other people. This is the biggest issue with the league, and you contrast it with which the is another thing we'll talk about here with the WNBA.
sure.
The superstars in the NBA are superstars because they're in college for 4 years. We've seen Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese play each other in college. They have rivalries going back years. And it's like you know who these people are. You've seen them play. You've seen them play each other. You've seen them
Yeah.
win. You've seen them lose. And now you have these dudes who are at some random ACC school for a year, lose in the round of 32, then get drafted in the top 10, and no one knows who they are.
And then a lot of the time, like even if they're going to be blossoming superstars, that doesn't happen until like their third or fourth year in the league, almost like they could have done that in college
Which I
and been
not
NBA
exactly
ready when
any
they came in.
yeah, not exactly anything specifically against Halliburton because like
No.
he was wasting away in terrible with terrible teams for a while at the beginning of his career.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of like that's the thing is like these dudes who are carrying these middling teams kind of get in mid-market cities
Yeah.
don't get much press, which is again, something to be said about ESPN and the league and all that stuff. But I there's also I think it's been said before too about from other people, and I know friend of the show Matt made this point.
Hmm.
The NHL is trying to grow. And in doing that, they made a terrific deal with ESPN where basically you get the NHL League Pass just with having ESPN Plus.
Yeah, that is actually, and he and others have pointed that out, and it's actually very very good. I'm hockey will by nature always be a niche sport, but it's never been easier to follow your team from anywhere, and you literally would know about this being a Vegas Golden Knights fan.
Exactly, exactly.
So,
It
yeah,
was so frustrating for a while that like I could only ever watch like national broadcasted games because it's like I'd have to try and find the radio like I couldn't
right,
watch most of the games. And that's different. And so here I can't watch Cavs games because it's blacked out in Columbus.
right,
Like
yeah,
that's insane.
yeah.
I'm not gonna go to Cleveland on a Tuesday.
Sure, you are.
What is happening here? Like
Well, in like blackout rules in general are like blackouts in watching sports is like a whole other topic that we can talk about at more length. But to your point, I do think that the NHL's found their way to profit off of it and expand it and grow the reach of the game. The NBA doesn't really need to do that, but I will say that it does feel a lot like the next league and it might be Major League Baseball. We'll see. The next league that can solve the blackout issue finally really, really could like pocket a whole generation of fans here. Like if Major League Baseball is able to do something in their next CBA, which there's gonna be a horrendous lockout in 2026. We will talk about that when it happens. If they can
I have a
figure
hot
it
take.
out, yeah,
I have a hot take, and I would like to see how you think about this.
sure. Let's hear
The,
it.
there's a lot that's been said about the current state of Major League Baseball and
Yeah.
the league in general. Major League Baseball is what the NBA will be in 10 years if they don't fix things. Because like
Hmm.
you look at where Major League Baseball is now, like I mean, Otani is like the only person anyone cares about in the entire league.
Well,
Like,
I don't want to get too off track with baseball, but I will say I don't think that's a hot take. I think it's a I don't think I think that's a warm take, if anything else. But I will say that similar to what we're talking about with this marketing of stars type thing, um, the 30 of like the stingiest people are like the 30 owners of the Major League Baseball clubs. And to your point, like had they not found a way to play like in the pandemic, it would have like really buried it. The owners are far apart on what they want and what they need and what's issues, small market versus big market and whatever. Um, and they're far apart before they even get to a place of agreeing, and then they take that to the players association. Like I think we are headed for a very, very ugly lockout in 2026, which is going to have to where all of this stuff is going to have to be addressed. And I absolutely, to your point, think that the issues at play 100% are real. And I don't know if that's a hot take as much as it is. I think most fans would actually agree. Um, Back to this though, with the NBA. Uh, it really would be great if they could find a way to make League Pass, more widely available. Mainly at a time when the NBA is seemingly so wide open. That's really what I've been thinking this whole time. To where since our last show, where this sport, which is more regional, as I said before, trying to find my train of thought here, it's a more regional sport than I think, than it's been in the past, especially as Steph and LeBron and some of those stars start to phase out. And I ultimately do think that's good. But going along with it, they really should utilize something similar to the NHL, what they've done. I think would help fix the issue that you just talked about. So, what you
yeah,
got?
I mean, I'm just pulling this up. It's they have these like different tiers
Oh, the league pass, yeah,
of the league pass, and like it not only is it just really complicated to get, like it's expensive. Like
it is.
it
Oh,
can get really expensive,
it is absolutely.
and like like you'd think
And NHL
like
TV used to be that. It used to be you can get one team all their games, or you can get like the whole league. And
right.
and typically there were years where I did pay for the entire league.
I've been saying this with the Sunday ticket stuff too, is they need to offer like just a single team thing for a discounted rate, because like obviously they do it for a reason, to make you spend more money to get everything, but
Sure.
like if I could spend just as so league pass is like $109 for the season, so if I could spend $15 and I would get zero blackouts. I could watch all 82 games for the Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean that would not be that out of. I mean that would
15.
not be that
Did you
bad.
say 15 or 50?
15.
15 bucks is an absolute steal with what you've just
That's my
described.
point.
Yeah, well, yeah,
I mean,
it wouldn't be that cheap.
well, you get my point.
I get your point. Like
You
it
get my
would be
point. Like,
what you're describing would still be like $100
well, it's $100 for the
and
whole
worth
thing.
it
Like
and worth it.
I'm saying like, okay, if you set it at $100 for the season for every game, then I don't know, 40.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I
40 or $50. And that's honestly kind of how the old NHL TV used to work. And I mean in the pre-ESPN, NBC Sports, NHL. And it was worth it. It was genuinely worth it if you wanted to watch your team. Um, like that's the way it worked when we were in college, basically. That's
Mhm.
like how long ago it was. But I digress. I do think something like that is going to be in the cards soon. And I think we're getting to a place where TV is so segmented that I think every major sports league is going to have to come out with their own version of that kind of thing at some point, um, where it's more widely accessible. And they got to fix the blackout situation. They have to do that. Um, do you want to shift to this other NBA story that I
Yeah,
have on the
I
docket?
think that's a good transition.
Because
Uh,
we're gonna finish up with kind of like a state of the WNBA, which Casen already kind of referenced, but this was brought to my attention by you guys, by you specifically. The Lakers have sold, I believe. I like you. I kind of
Yes.
want you to kind of discuss
Yes.
it. Tell us what
So
happened.
I believe it was last week. There was an announcement which in kind of the timing was a little surprising, and I think a lot of people were really surprised
Yeah,
with some of the details, but the the Bus family has sold a majority stake in the Los Angeles Lakers to Mark Walter, who owns the Los Angeles Dodgers, with an evaluation that would put the Los Angeles Lakers at $10 billion,
$10 billion.
and which is crazy and insane. However, we've seen this before a little bit to where I think it was kind of similar to the Mark Cuban sale, where Jeannie Buss is staying on as the team president, whatever you want to say. She's staying on as leading the decision making,
Yeah,
and the Buss family is retaining 15% ownership,
yeah.
um, which obviously makes sense. But yeah, I want to congratulate every member of the Buss family on being a billionaire now. Uh, Congratulations.
Yeah. That's when you get down on your knees and you thank Jerry Buss for buying them whenever he bought them for whatever it was, 60 million or whatever, and turning that franchise into what they are now known. Obviously, a big deal because I mean, when you're talking Lakers, you're talking literally what a top five sports brand in the world. I mean, in
Mhm.
terms of recognizability, in terms of popularity worldwide. I mean, literally, it's like Cowboys, Lakers,
I
Manchester United, and like a few
in
others in the
in a
whole world.
league, yeah, in a league that's value is that the team's valuations are generally significantly lower than NFL teams,
Hmm.
because I think the Cowboys, like for the I think Forbes gave the Cowboys a $10 billion eval a year ago
I
maybe.
think so.
But like all of the NFL teams are super high. I mean, the Commanders just sold for I think was it 6, almost 7 billion. So the NFL teams are generally the highest in value just because the media in that league is so high. Um, and so the NFL teams usually have been around, or the NBA teams have usually been around like four.
Yeah,
I think can't remember what the Mavs just sold for, but I think the Timberwolves sold for the Mark, was it Mark Laurie and A Rod, that group I think was like 3.5
yeah,
maybe is what that sold
yeah.
for. So um 10 is incredibly high for the NBA. So credit to them for getting that amount of value.
And like when it comes to one of these incredibly high valued teams, they don't change hands every like just on a random year. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
This only
well, I mean
this is like a generational
yeah,
move.
the Buss family has owned the Lakers for what, 50 years?
Yeah.
Like
I mean, I thought I will be honest that the only real main thought, and I had this written down was I'm with you the timing, but like little weird to be doing it. It seems like it seems like like my thoughts are you probably just want to take a step back from doing as much with the Lakers because let's be real, like in the immediate aftermath of Jerry's passing and Jeannie and her brother and all that stuff, it was kind of chaotic there until she kind of took charge and got them going to where they ultimately ended up. But I would just think that I wouldn't expect a sale like this for maybe another 10 years. So I just thought it was a little bit odd in terms of the timing. But I suppose like you said, Casen, like you sat here and said several shows ago, if you just want to offload it and make like $10 billion, like, and don't want to be part of the day to day as much anymore, I mean, you might as well, that's the move.
so
Um, yeah,
to clarify,
sure.
to clarify, uh so Mark Walter previously owned 20%.
Okay.
And so he owned 20%.
His holding
Um
company is the TWG Global.
and so from what I can find here, um at one point in time, uh oh, okay. So let me just explain this. So after the team extended its lease at what used to be Staples Center, Crypto.com Arena. Philip Anschutz, the who we've talked about, the owner of many different sports teams, including the
Yeah. Yeah.
Kings and whatever. He sold his shares in in the Lakers to Mark Walter and Todd Bowley, uh, which brought Walter's ownership up to 20% at the time. And because of that, Walter and this other guy, Todd Bowley, obtained a right of first refusal if the Buss family ever sold the team.
Oh, interesting.
So if they were going to sell, it was only ever going to be to him
Gotcha.
if he
So
wanted it.
so everyone involved here is essentially going to remain exactly as they were. It's just that they've now divided up. They've changed how much of the team each person
Yeah,
like has.
yeah, yeah.
Gotcha.
So I didn't know that this guy already had a minority stake in the team.
Yeah, I
Um,
didn't know that either. So
but yeah, so it's interesting, and I'm curious. I would be curious to wonder if there was some sort of reason behind them selling now. Um,
maybe that'll come out. You know.
I don't think it ever will. For a while anyway. When I see something like this,
Hmm.
the as part of just the my background immediately goes to financial or tax reasons as to why the family didn't want to continue owning the team. Or they could have just be straight up cash poor. And they needed cash.
Could be the
That
case.
could be part of it.
I will say that keep your eye on this in general because you don't make a purchase or a move like that to ultimately not make any decisions with the team. We have sat here on the show and talked about how the Lakers have been a little bit of a joke over little bit of a circus over the last like 5 seasons. Um,
I will
even before
say,
they had LeBron.
I will say
Yeah,
it so this guy now owns the two teams in LA with Otani and LeBron on them.
this is true.
And he just spent $1 billion to get Otani. I we'll see on if he makes any big moves. Um, because I would imagine he's aware. Having LeBron is great, but he's not going to at this point in time
Yeah.
win you a championship by himself.
Well, when it's funny because I've had this conversation up and down kind of my work hallway and said, but I do think we are going to see the biggest sports contract ever signed within the next 5 years, and it's going to be for one Paul Skeens. I actually believe that could happen. That's my
Yeah.
prediction. I think it's going to be in baseball. It's going to be post lockout, and it's going to be in baseball, and it's going to be to somewhere. Could be the Mets, could be New York Yankees, could be. But I do think we're going to see the biggest American sports contract ever signed by that man.
I commend you on acknowledging and
Oh,
accepting the fact it will not be in Pittsburgh.
oh, 100%. I mean, it would be incredible if it was. I mean, my thoughts are if things turned around. I mean, definitely as a team first guy, there might be an avenue of if I can be wishful thinking and think there might be an avenue, but I also think to myself, yeah, but you can get like franchise changing players for him, like in his last year.
Yeah.
Like you can get a haul from someone. You can get like an entire farm system when you're a small market team, but who knows what the circumstances of baseball will be by then.
Yeah. No,
Anyway,
he's going to go to the
yeah.
Marlins. Livy wants to move to Miami.
That would be that. Hey, you know what? Hey, you know what? It's definitely going to be in play, right? The last thing I have here, but before we get going here, is just to talk about the W because we haven't talked about the WNBA, and it has been such an eventful like last week and a half in the league. And just obviously we're gonna. I think we should lead off talking about the Caitlin Clark, obviously Sophie Cunningham story
I
is
I
awesome.
would I would like to back up first and
And
say a couple weeks ago Caitlin Clark got injured,
yeah,
and in the time frame of her injury the WNBA ratings like plummeted.
they did.
And then as soon as she came back from injury, they came back to where they were.
Yeah.
And so I think there again, we do need to establish in the context of all this drama and feuding within the league, there is one person paying everybody's salaries and everybody's bills, and everybody in the league hates her for it.
I will be I it's very fascinating to kind of see what's happened with Caitlin Clark just in the last year and change. If we didn't really talk about it on this show, but I remember us kind of getting into it a little bit right before her draft back in 2024 of just Diana Taurasi and like some of these other players, both in and out of the league, having essentially nothing good to say about her. And I do, to some degree, understand the mantra of there have been phenomenal players in the W this whole time. That is 100% true, and I understand the frustration of there's so many better players in the WNBA than just Caitlin Clark. I really do understand that, but it has been a kind of incredible to me to see this not be as embraced as universally when it's objectively a good thing for the league. Thoughts on that? I mean, I've really been
Yeah,
sitting around
no,
like, man, the hate she's getting is like so overplayed, and
I,
some players have leaned into it heavy, like it's coming from players like Angel Reese
mhm.
and other, and she's kind of a whole separate story. But it's not just her. I mean, people are pulling race into it. It's just completely toxic, and I don't like it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of resentment within the league from other players and stars and former stars that are, there I think is the stuff of like, well, I was good too. I deserved all this attention too. And I don't think it's not like it's necessarily Caitlin's fault. It's just that like she happened to be really good at the perfect time of like culture and media and like she peaked at the perfect time of like NIL deals, TikTok. She's her breaking the records. And it was just sort of this perfect storm at the time.
The fact that she is that good, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
let's.
And I mean, and I think what a lot of these older players kind of forget with their like frustration with her is that it's not like it's undeserving. Like she still is really good.
Yeah,
I mean, like it's not like she's a bench warmer getting all this attention. Like she is objectively one of the best players in the league already. Like
she is, and don't get me wrong. I mean, the Fever are still a building team as of today. The Fever are 6-7, kind of middle of the league. I just want to point out you got the Minnesota Lynx, who are still the top dogs, and of course Sabrina Ionescu and the New York Liberty are right there at the top too. I just think that it's incredible that it's become a lightning rod. I will say though that the drama like unfolded like with Sophie Cunningham, sticking up for her teammate and everything, and causing a fight. I do think objectively it is good for the league. No one getting injured, of course, but I do think like us having this kind of storyline is good for the league. I also will go ahead and say this too. I think Caitlin Clark, I mean, she's kind of already doing it. I think Caitlin Clark would be fully within her right to lean right into the villain role if she wants to. I mean, it's like, hey, if y'all are
I
going to
mean,
treat me
she
like,
should.
yeah, if y'all are going to treat me like this, then I'm going to play even better. It's only going to motivate me. And they went and got like Sophie Cunningham to protect her and do those things. I'm like, I don't know. I see a blooming and blossoming situation for the W, and beyond just Caitlin Clark, just all of this is only helping the league. So.
I do. So backing up
Yeah.
a little bit to um you mentioned Sophie Cunningham, the scuffle with JC Sheldon,
Yep.
Ohio's own JC Sheldon, went to high school like 30 minutes from me.
Really.
Uh
Bringing the old Big Ten rivalry into the W, man.
which
Awesome.
again, this is what I was saying was I can promise you JC and Caitlin have had something against each other going back to Ohio State and
Oh,
Iowa. I
all the
can
way to
promise you
college.
that.
Yeah,
And so
100%.
this is what I'm saying is that this is why I mean it's controversial whatever. This is why guys in the NBA need to stay in college longer
Yeah,
because
the
you
WNBA
develop
is profiting and benefiting from what the NBA used to have. That's exactly what you're saying. Uh,
Exactly.
and it's
You want to talk about like Magic and Larry Bird,
oh man,
that is the context of this. Is that like you have these girls playing multiple times against each other in March Madness, and then they get drafted the same year, and they end up playing each other in the W, and they like it. This is the drama that we need in every other sports league in America.
I agree. I agree. And I would objectively say we do get it in football. We don't get it as
Oh,
much in the NBA
how
anymore.
long do they have to stay in college and football?
Well, exactly. And so it's only adding to what is an absolute like incredible period of time for women's basketball. That's only getting better, right? And I kind of like right now that the W has that over the NBA because the NBA doesn't seemingly want to address the issue at all. So that's fine if the W is where we're going to get basketball rivalries to that level again. I'm loving it, honestly. I objectively don't really have a W team of my own. Maybe once Cleveland gets theirs, that can be my avenue in because I don't really follow players. But someone even asked me if Pittsburgh could be like a WNBA location. I said, well, the market's not big enough to have even an NBA team, and I feel like you definitely need that there first. But Pittsburgh did just get a WUSL team, so the Riveters. So that's what I got. Okay, so I did want to talk about one last thing, and before I do, I will say I've been racking my brain this entire show of who does Casen remind me of with his whole look right now, dude. You look like you're a spitting image of Dave Filoni right now. So
Okay.
anyway, yeah, we had a little bit of a call drop here right before the end of the show because I just told Casen he looks exactly like David Filoni
Yeah, it works. Yeah.
with the hat and everything.
Didn't even really think about it, but yeah, you're definitely right.
I don't know if you heard me or not, but I said we can wrap up the show by talking about this Kevin Durant trade.
Yeah. Lots of basketball this week, but that's just sort of the timing. Yeah, Kevin the Snake Durant has been traded once again. The newest Rainbow Man. He went to the Rockets, much like his former Thunder teammate James Harden.
Yeah,
I mean it was everybody kind of figured he was going to get traded. I think a lot of people thought it would be the Rockets. And okay, I mean, I don't know. Like the Rockets are another up and coming younger team. They've had a lot of they've had a lot of high draft picks recently. They've gotten young, and then they got bounced in the first round this year. And so, they're a team that needs some veteran presence. Don't know if Kevin's the guy to bring it to you, but good luck with that. Yeah, I don't. I mean, you can have your. I don't. I'd like to know your thoughts. I mean, I've made my opinion. I think pretty clear on that one.
I think the Rockets are making that move in a sense of like let's try to use this as a big step forward. I don't think Kevin Durant at um 36, going to be 37 years old in September, is going to be the guy to get you over that hump. I just don't see that being the case. But it is kind of funny how it is like kind of funny how his route ultimately was like gets traded to Houston, kind of completing that whole thing. Um, I don't think it's going to have the effect that the Houston Rockets want it to. That's really what my take is, just because Kevin's definitely on kind of the way out. I sent you an interesting TikTok today that was saying it is kind of interesting how he is a guy who's going to go into the Hall of Fame, but like not a single place he's played is going to want to retire his jersey, which I actually thought was pretty fascinating. There's only like one to two places I think could, but
Well, it kind of off of that. It is very interesting to think about going back to what we were talking about with Sam Presti.
right.
You think back to that team, Harden, Westbrook, Durant, they've all kind of had the same tail end of their career. They go
Yeah,
somewhere, get burnt out, and wear out their welcome, and then demand a trade and go somewhere else.
they've
Oh,
just become these
cycle
journeyman
repeating.
guys.
Like it's so bizarre.
Yeah,
Like they, like at least KD, like KD had some success with the Warriors. I think if it was anywhere else, it wouldn't have. But like, and there was a lot of drama between him and Draymond, and but they kind of stuck together because they were winning. But but between Durant's time with the Nets and the Suns and now the Rockets, it's just like, what are we doing here? Like this is beginning to be like Westbrook on the Wizards territory. Like what are we doing
Well,
here?
when I think what's interesting is also, I mean, he's not necessarily like a beloved player in any franchise he's been to. Is interesting. I guess you might be able to retire his number in Golden State someday. Like I could see them potentially doing it.
I don't think anybody there cares though. Like they only care
Exactly.
about Steph, Clay, and Draymond.
Correct. And and like you texted me back and said, once a snake emoji, always a snake emoji, which was objectively funny to me. But I don't know. It's defining for him to get traded to the Rockets and have this, have this kind of journeyman end his career. It's the story of Kevin Durant's career, honestly. Yes, got a title, did it in kind of a, controversial way, but ultimately he got two actually. And was the finals MVP of both years. He got it. He ultimately got what he wanted, but I will always look at Kevin Durant as like but he had to like go to a super team to make it happen. He couldn't make it happen on his own. And Houston, he's going to continue not doing that. He's going to continue not doing it on his own.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean,
So
I
that's,
and to
yeah,
me, I can't blame the Suns for wanting to get him out of there, but it's just like also I don't know what the Suns are doing. I don't know what direction they go.
little bit directionless, but I will say at a time when the league is so wide open, at least seemingly right now, um, moves like this, I mean, I feel like you got to throw something at the wall to kind of see what works and see what
Yep.
doesn't. So, um, it's wide open. It could be, quite frankly, as we talked about earlier in the show, the West could run right through Oklahoma City for the foreseeable future, more so even than it does already.
I would pay so much money for a Rockets Thunder playoff series
Mm,
with him having to go back to Oklahoma City
that
a-
would be
after
fascinating.
they won a title.
Yeah,
Like that would be nuts.
yeah. I mean,
I mean, we'll get it in the regular season, but like it'll just be more in the playoffs.
no, I'm with you, and sometimes things happen in sports that are just poignant. It's poignant for the Oklahoma City Thunder to win a title like one day after like Kevin Durant gets traded to play on his like fifth team post Oklahoma City, and then of course they win their first title without him with a brand new core. I think there's something a little bit defining stuff. I mean, I think that's also why we love sports so much because they can't be scripted. So. That's what we got, man. That's what we got for the beginning of the week for your it's gonna be Tuesday by the time you hear this. Apologies
Oh,
for the technical issues that persist, but our good guy Casen will be able to edit it around it. What'd you find out here as the wrap things up?
yeah, I thought this was the case. I just want to make sure. I also on the Rockets, Thunder legend and also Pitt alumnus Steven Adams.
Okay.
So it'll
So
be a bit of a reunion between Steven Adams and Kevin Durant.
yeah, looks like it. Looks like it for sure. Thank you everybody so much for watching, listening, however you consume honestly, for Casen's hat, as well as my own. This is Kellen,
This is Kason.
and we'll see you as always at the next stop.